Hello everyone, I guess hopefully you're having a wonderful Wednesday, a little different this go around. Wanted to do an auction review this week over one that happened 4 years ago, almost. Really, actually closer to 3 considering how the World Cup's lined up. But let's go ahead and take a peek. This is the 2022 World Cup auction from Goldin, and this is just, at least in terms of soccer historical context, in terms of cards, I think for a lot of people that were around for this is probably the standout soccer auction over the last 5 years or so since this has really taken off. And I wanted to go through it sort of as a thought exercise as to what we can expect potentially in World Cup 2026. I've taken a small peek, but I haven't really dug into this auction block. I was just curious myself because 2022, at least how it felt at the time, was that clearly way too many people had invested into the idea that 2022 World Cup was going to be some sort of catalyst. And so when the World Cup actually came around, there was more supply than ever. And as someone that still wanted soccer cards, even though they were cheaper than they had been, I still wanted cards. It felt like you were able to find as many cards as possible to fit into your collection at great prices. Like everywhere you looked, you could find cards, and you kind of had to be selective and maybe even let some go that you wish you would have picked up now. But it was just a crazy time. So I want to go back and look at this in particular. Of course, during 2022 World Cup, there isn't just this auction. This is one singular auction that was pretty hyped up, but there were other things going on at the time as well. And let's go ahead and view the auction block. So, gonna sort by highest price. One thing, well, we'll get into it. I don't know how far I want to go into this. I'm guessing at some point I'm just gonna get bored and probably call it quits. But one thing you will notice pretty quick, no singular cards over 100K, which is pretty crazy and probably goes to show how far soccer sort of moved since then. I can't imagine how many you would imagine would sell for 100K in this World Cup edition, but you never know. Of course, this gold power and a 9.5, pretty crazy card, and definitely would sell for more now. I believe there's, I don't know if it's this copy. It might be this same exact copy that's up on auction right now and is already at like 100K plus with like a month left on bid. So that would do a higher price and already is doing a higher price at this point in time. Crazy to think that a George Best was somehow the second highest card in the auction block, and 9's a super high grade, but I mean, still just kind of nutty. The first Mbappe autograph here, 1 of 1, goes for 66K. Little luster lost behind that Mbappe premium that definitely was around back then, that this was the first autograph. Still, I'm sure would do a great number now, but definitely fallen a bit. Generally speaking, especially stuff like this, 9.5 bis, we can go look up what it's doing now. Yeah, looking at the all-time chart here, back in 2022 World Cup time, you're looking at, 30K, which is what we saw there. And currently 100, which, do it all right. But I think there were more in this auction block as well. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, there's one down there too. It's just different subgrades. Gold Kaboom, of course, that has definitely done a lot more since, and surely would as well there. PSA 10 for 2018 gold is definitely crazy, and couldn't imagine that now. Crazy, well, it's probably not crazy to think, but so many of these cards, like 2022 was sort of seen as the time to sell based on people's theories of how the market would turn out. But clearly, as you'll come to see on many of these cards, it was a great time to buy, and it makes it an interesting thought for 2026 if that's going to be similar. One thing that's also very different in 2026 is that we have 4 more years of cards, of a lot of expensive modern cards that could potentially hit auction. So it does seem like there's going to, I would have to imagine, be more supply just by nature of where we're at. PSA 10 Henri Foot went for 32K. A red chrome Cristiano Ronaldo there went for 31K, and a PSA 9. Those are doing really well right now, and certainly that would as well. Another 9.5 bis there at 30K. A ruby flawless finish is Messi at 28K. That would be much more now at this point. Gold Haaland probably hasn't done a whole lot, to be honest. Haaland definitely took a step down in 2023, 2024. He's come back a little bit since, but ultimately not a whole lot going on there. Gold Messi 2022 Prism for 24K. Good lord. Yeah, this is February of last year before the Messi roar, and a 10 was doing 100. So, I'd have to imagine the 9.5 at 24 ended up being a pretty good buy. 1 of 1 Dynasty Pele for 25K. Also would have to imagine that's decent as well. PSA 9 bis. I think those are 70, 80K maybe at the moment. A couple Ronaldos here along with the Pele auto from the Aquarella set. And on the first page, just looking at the first, I think, 24 here, 48? Yeah, 24 only. I mean, what's standing out very apparently to me already is like the prices are a lot higher now in soccer, like on all of this sort of big time stuff. So there's going to be, at least, if things retain sort of where they're at now or some semblance of that, there's going to be higher prices on a lot of this come 2026. And again, you have that dueling sort of growth in supply just from the 4 years of printing. But, like, this auction was so incredibly deep. I guess that sort of shows you what the ceiling was of soccer in 2022 in an auction like this, where you're getting the best of the best from everywhere. That was the ceiling. It feels like the ceiling now, in modern particularly, is a lot higher than it was then. Vintage, pre-war, modern feels relatively similar. But modern certainly has moved a long way. And I don't want to go through every row because that's not the point of this, but I just want to go ahead and talk about things that are at least semi-notable and sort of stand out to you. 1 of 1 NT, kind of a standout card, I would say. That Pele's probably a similar price nowadays in that grade, I would say, so nothing crazy there. 1 of 1 Jude for 18K, interesting to see where that would go now. Granted, I just feel like those sorts of parallels have moved a bit. Maradona, 1 of 1 Nobility. Again, that's one, it might do a similar number now. It probably would do a bit more. I know there's a lot of love behind the Nobility set, but like, man, those are types of cards you just don't see for 4 years, and then maybe during a World Cup they pop up. That one might already be tucked away and may never pop up again, but those are the types of cards that you actually do find during these times. Same with like an out of 5 flawless Messi. Hard to find a really low numbered one unless it's, like white box maybe. Gold Kaboom Ronaldo for 16K and a 10. I mean, oh my gosh, Could you imagine picking that up? And back then I thought those were expensive even then. I thought those were crazy prices, and now they're even crazier. So speaking of the white boxes there, you got a 2 out of 2 Ronaldo as well, along with a nice patch from the flawless set, numbered out of 10. Nice patch card next to it as well. Along with that super down here, numbered out of 99 Ronaldo. Rounding out this page, a couple more autos here. You got some Noir along with some Manchester United early days Ronaldo autos. And this is an example of like stuff that would just probably have gone crazy since this auction block occurred. The national landmarks, I know that those generally have done really well. Personally, I've never really gotten into these. I know some of the parallels. I have no clue what this scope 1 of 1 is meant to look like. I don't understand how it's different, but it is the 1 of 1 as far as I'm aware. It says Prism Scope, and I look at it, and maybe it's just something you need in hand to be able to sort of get. It just looks like a regular refractor to me. I've never understood it. Not to say I don't understand why it's desirable. 14K back then, I would have to imagine this does a massive number now. Green Crystals Mbappe, fun one as well. The gold PSA 10, Topps Chrome Messi, those would do big numbers as well today. I think they sort of dipped after this sale, or at least around this sale for maybe the year after that, but then they've come back pretty well. Super strong grade Maradonas, PSA 6 on a crack 78, along with the 7 on a caricature. Those are big time. You barely ever see those pop. Some more flawless Ronaldo, and I mean some superfractors in various forms of some of the young players. So definitely going to see a lot of that if you got young guys that you're, looking to prospect on, or maybe even veteran goats that you're looking to buy some high end on. I'd have to imagine there's a lot of that available in 2026. I feel like if you like Dynasty stuff, maybe there's so much demand at World Cup 2026 that, Dynasty is even higher than it is now. But I would just have to imagine there's so much premium stuff in modern soccer compared to what there used to be, that I feel like there's going to be some deals depending on where you want to go. I mean, there's got to be, really, with this much stuff. And the crazy part, we're seeing tons of great cards. I can scroll through them all we want. There's 53 pages, and of course, I'm sure you hit page 45, and it's a bunch of nothing that probably shouldn't have even been submitted to the auction block anyways. But, every page I'm scrolling through, that's a full Prism 2020 or 2014 auto set. You got R9, 2018 Eminence, Holland rookie autos, Superfractor Jude, super high grade Zidane's, PSA 8, some more R9 on card. You got a PSA 5 77 disc. That's super tough. At this point, 2s and 3s are probably going for this price. Granted, every item is unique, and this one might have been a bad fight. You never know, but that's still a super low price back then. Some great Pele. Well, I'm not a huge fan of the record, but PSA 9's a big grade, so that is a good Pele. 7,500 there on this little later Pele. It's not quite 58, but it was labeled as such at the time. 2018 Eminence, again, high-grade Ronaldo, 7,200 on that. I mean, golly, for BGS 9, what are we looking at today for that price? BGS I don't know, 5, 6. I know the low grade copies are super low. Maybe a little higher than a 5, maybe 7. I don't know. Definitely not 9. Maradona, Eminence. I mean, just so much good. Pele on card, Immaculate, good Prism. Mbappe, rookie, if you want to call it a rookie. This is definitely a rookie. Marco Van Basten, high grade. 12 Messi Monday Cromos and PSA 8 all in one. I mean, goodness. And now with PSA 8, I don't know what that means. It's probably like 1,500 to 2K. So that's, this is like a $20,000 lot right here that sold for 6K. Ronaldo red autos, Pele rookie, really nice. I mean, that's a disgusting deal on that Ronaldo patch. Oh my lord, that's a crazy pickup. But like again, and this is just buried in page 5, like a ridiculous modern card for one of the best players ever, no matter how you really want to slice it. And it just continues, like Messi red stuff. This would do huge numbers nowadays. Like gold Messi again would do huge numbers. 101 pool sig, maybe not as big, but big card for, at least for US guys. Not trying to hype that up, but that's beside the point. There's just so many good cards. I mean, even down here, 5K pop, Ronaldo, Messi, even though it's a questionable Messi sig, whatever. PSA, Ronaldinho. There's just so much ridiculous stuff that comes out at these World Cups. And I'm just going to scroll, and you can look at it. And ultimately, back then, I'll tell you that when this was happening, it felt unbearable. Like, soccer had been marching down in price from the peak in 2021. It scattered amongst different things in 2022, but then sort of just came marching down. And when the 2022 World Cup hit, it was horrendous. It was just a bloodbath everywhere you looked. And honestly, a lot of the comps that came around at this time were so low that, a month or two after, people didn't even really count them. Like, in terms of even buyers would look at it and be like, well, that's a one-off comp I'm never going to get again, because it was just so ridiculous. And not to say that's going to happen in 2026, because to some degree, people know now that that's how 2022 was. So when 2026 comes around, they can, buy and sell accordingly and maybe shift their plans to something different. But, it's hard for me to think that with all this supply that came out in 2022, plus all the appreciation and price that's gone into this stuff, plus all the supply that's out there now, I just think there's so much. And I do worry a bit. I'm a bit nervous. But at the same time, a lot of the things I've picked up and that I'm into at this point aren't really susceptible to, if people want to auction off a bunch of modern Mbappe cards, my collection doesn't really, care much either way about that. And so I just felt like it was useful to go through this, at least for myself, and, I figured I'd share it because maybe some other people hadn't seen this or haven't really remembered it in quite a while. And, ultimately my thought is, honestly, there was a lot of stuff. I guess what surprised me most about this auction block wasn't how much good stuff there was in it, because I remember that at the time. What surprised me is how much a lot of this stuff has moved in price since. On red chrome stuff, gold here and there, certain inserts, there's a lot of stuff that's really sort of made its own wave in this space. And there are tons of cards here you look at, like that Eminence Ronaldo we just looked at, that was 5K. I mean, that's a ridiculous card now. This Red Sapphire Holland probably also would do a pretty good note. I mean, the Kaboom Mbappe, clearly. Maradona Gold, too. Just so many things in Modern that are doing incredibly well. And that's really what stuck out to me. Now, ultimately, Goldin sells tons of Modern. They really, specialize in high-end Modern, so you're going to see a lot more of that here. But, it makes me wonder, what is 2026 Goldin World Cup auction going to look like? And, if I make a little fun to go ahead and, splurge in it, what does that look like? What could I get? What could I expect to see? I don't know. And this sort of gives you an idea. Hopefully it gave you something to think about. But I enjoyed it. If you did as well, make sure to leave a like. Any thoughts? Love to hear them down below in a comment. If you want to see more videos like this as soon as we go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day. And peace.